Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. So I just wanted to come on here and say a few words about the actor Ryan O'Neal, who passed away just a few days ago at the age of 82. Now I think probably for a lot of younger audiences, younger than myself, maybe Ryan O'Neal isn't an actor that really is of great significance to modern viewers, unless you're going back to this period of time in the 70s and are watching those movies. But really over the last several decades, he hasn't been making films of any particular note or merit, I would say. And so really it's just interesting to go back, look at this really finite period of time that there was in the 70s and just how successful he was, and just think about that. Now, there are reasons, of course, why his career hasn't really sort of continued to shine over the last few decades, but I'm not really going to go into any of that. Clearly, there have been personal matters, family matters, alcohol, drugs, things of that nature. That's none of my business, and I don't want to go into any of the stories or gossip about any of that. But yeah, let's just concentrate on some of the movies. So Ryan O'Neal, really he started off as a former Coast Guard, I think, and an amateur boxer. By all accounts, Ryan O'Neal could have had a bit of a career as a boxer if he wanted to. But no, he started his acting career really prominently in Peyton Place. Now that's a series that is before my time. I didn't watch that at all, so I'm not going to talk about that. But in terms of movies, really his breakthrough moment came in 1970, and it really came through in a big way because it was this film, Love Story. So 1970, directed by Arthur Hiller, produced by Robert Evans, who had really touted this script, having adapted the rights from Eric Siegel's novel. So we got Ryan O'Neal here alongside Ali MacGraw. And this was an absolutely massive box office hit for Paramount. It was, I think, their biggest hit to date, over 100 million at the box office. Huge hit. Now a very simple kind of story, and Robert Evans had really latched onto that. It was basically Harvard law student, affluent parents. He meets this girl at a library, not so well to do, if you like, but they fall in love, they bicker, they get married quickly, but then illness strikes and sadness then ensues. So a very fleeting relationship and a lot of emotional involvement in this film. So definitely this is a film that just absolutely pulls on the heartstrings. You're getting that sense of love, you're getting all the emotions, you're getting the sadness too. That's what it was all about. You've got this beautiful music score by Francis Lay, which went on to win the Oscar. Now, Ryan O'Neal and Ali MacGraw were also Oscar nominated, but it was George C. Scott's that year for Patton, so Ryan O'Neal lost out. But yeah, this is a dated movie. Like I say, the story is probably too simple for modern day audiences now, and also in terms of how it deals with sort of illness, cancer, things of those kinds of natures. We probably nowadays want a bit more complexity around that kind of subject, I suppose. But yeah, like I say, at the time you cannot understate just how big a box office hit this was. This really struck with audiences. So around this time, Ryan O'Neal, peak time at the box office. He was really second only to Clint Eastwood at this time, and lots of roles were then awaiting him. Funnily enough, though, he was only sixth choice to play the part of Oliver in Love Story. As I understand it, producers were initially looking at John Voight, Beau Bridges, Michael Sarrazin, Michael York, and Michael Douglas. But yeah, finally Ryan got the part. So a great performance in this one, and then on to more things in the 70s. And really in 1972 and 1973, he was able to get a great partnership with director Peter Bogdanovich. And then first up was this one, What's Up, Doc?, in which he gets to star alongside Barbara Streisand. Now, this is just a terrifically entertaining, funny film that is a throwback to the screwball comedies of the 1930s and 40s. So it's really, really frenzied action, frenetic, fast-paced dialogue, and lots of slapstick and physical comedy and action. And so Ryan O'Neal really was able to lean into this, and they had really good chemistry with Barbara Streisand, and all of the comedic dialogue and action in this is just really, really enjoyable. So great fun movie. And then 1973, and I think probably the better of the two films, and it's this one, Paper Moon, which again is kind of harkening back to cinema of yesteryear. Here, Peter Bogdanovich is doing a black and white movie that involves a conman Bible salesman played by Ryan O'Neal, who ends up travelling around Kansas with young Tatum O'Neal, his real-life daughter, and who gets to assist him in a whole load of cons. And again, this is just so entertaining. And the chemistry, again, between Ryan O'Neal and his own daughter, Tatum, is just fantastic. Even if Peter Bogdanovich might have had to get multiple takes in order to get some of this natural chemistry, but it still works wonderfully on screen. This is just so entertaining. Now, Tatum O'Neal ended up winning a special Oscar, supporting actress Oscar, for her performance, and she was only about sort of 9 at the time. And the sort of, I suppose, bitter part of this is that neither Ryan O'Neal nor Peter Bogdanovich were nominated for Oscars, and they were both a bit disgruntled by that. And so sadly, neither Ryan O'Neal nor Peter Bogdanovich attended the Oscars at the time when Tatum actually won and received her Oscar. So I find that very sad and very tragic. And I think a lot of that has fed into all of the kind of problems, family problems that there have been over the years since. Maybe those problems were already present before Paper Moon started. Certainly they carried on afterwards. So that's the sad part about Paper Moon, is that this relationship fallout between Ryan O'Neal and Tatum. So I don't know the full details of that. I don't think that's really anyone's business, to be honest, even though they might have done some reality TV shows to try and talk about it, but so what. But yeah, just go back to the film itself. This is a wonderful film. We really do get to see Ryan doing some great line delivery, some great physical comedy, and just nicely timed comedy in this as well. So yes, Tatum O'Neal is the one that walks away with the movie, and Madeline Kahn does a great cameo as well. But yeah, you can't underestimate how good Ryan is in this as well. So superb movie, Paper Moon. And so next in 1975 is when things get interesting as well, because then we've got Stanley Kubrick making the film Barry Lyndon, and he casts Ryan O'Neal in the lead role. Absolutely incredible film, Barry Lyndon. Most people talk about it in the context of its cinematography, and quite rightly so. It is absolutely one of the most beautiful films you will ever see. Incredible exterior shots, for example, but also famously they used NASA lenses, which have a very wide aperture to allow a lot of light in, and that enabled them to do these incredible interior shots in some of the castles and mansions that were just using candlelight. So you get this very soft, warm glow light there that really encapsulates the whole scene. Incredible film to look at, but in the context of Ryan O'Neal, what he's doing here is quite a bit different to his performances previously. So not so much dialogue, and now we're getting a much more of a blank-faced expression from Ryan O'Neal. Not much blinking, closed-mouthed, and much less dialogue. So yeah, quite interesting how Kubrick uses him in this film. It was a proviso that he did have to get a Hollywood star to be in the film in order to be able to get the budget. So quite interesting really that he chose Ryan O'Neal for this. But I think it works really well for what he's doing with this film. ultimately, yeah, Ryan O'Neal does give a stellar performance. And particularly, I think if you just want to see one scene in Barry Lyndon that really encapsulates everything great about both filmmaking but also Ryan O'Neal's performance in the film, then it is to look at the Lord Bullingdon duel that comes toward the end of the movie. Everything about this scene is just perfection, both in terms of how it looks, how the editing is done, how shots are framed, how dialogue is used sparingly and with great punch as well. Ryan's facial expression, as well as the looks from Leon Vitali, who's playing Lord Bullingdon. So that whole scene just really is a perfect piece of filmmaking. Great timing to it as well. Just perfection. So yeah, Barry Lyndon, absolute masterpiece. And then moving on to 1977, and Ryan O'Neal does get to star alongside a whole host of Hollywood stars, this time in Richard Attenborough's A Bridge Too Far. So he doesn't have a lead role in this because, again, this is so star heavy. This is a World War II adventure based on true events. But yeah, Richard Attenborough uses basically anyone in Hollywood he could get at the time, I think, to star in this. So we have the likes of Sean Connery and James Caan, Dirk Bogarde, Hardy Kruger, Robert Redford is in this as well. Huge amount of stars in A Bridge Too Far. So Ryan O'Neal is a bit down the cast list in this, but still, nonetheless, that was a significant appearance in 1977. And so, 1978 really comes the time when it's, I think, the last great movie that Ryan O'Neal made before his career kind of turned. And it's this one, Walter Hill's The Driver, which he stars alongside Bruce Dern and Isabella Gianni. Absolutely atmospheric, incredible movie this. It's one of my favourites. I certainly enjoyed this loads on TV when I was a kid. And Ryan O'Neal was just so cool in this. I don't think anyone could do the open shirt look quite as well as he could. But yeah, he stars alongside Bruce Dern and Isabella Gianni. And again, kind of a bit like with Barry Lyndon, Walter Hill knows to use Ryan O'Neal to his best advantage here by giving him a minimal amount of dialogue and just using his facial expression. Again, you got the unblinking, the closed mouth, and this just gives Ryan O'Neal a sense of sort of danger. You're never quite sure just quite how he could react in a moment. Although he may not have been the first choice for the film, because other choices would have been Steve McQueen or Charles Bronson, and you can imagine the more sort of quite clearly visual, tougher gruffness that they might bring to a role. I think actually with Ryan O'Neal, it just makes it much more interesting because, he is this handsome guy. He's not as well built, if you like, as some of the other sort of more established movie stars. But again, there's a toughness to him, which does probably come from his boxing background. I think it makes him actually perfect for the role. The Driver, so atmospheric. And again, all right, you really think about it in terms of the context of its great chase sequences, all the driving sequences. But for sure, Ryan O'Neal is a big standout in this film. So certainly that wasn't it for Ryan O'Neal. His career did continue. He did actually reunite with Tatum O'Neal for one movie, Nickelodeon, and that was also for Peter Bogdanovich. But that was not a box office hit, even though it had Burt Reynolds in it as well. And he did also reunite with Barbra Streisand in 1979 for The Main Event. And that actually concerned some boxing as well. So he did get to go in the ring for that one. But again, that was a box office flop. And really throughout the 80s and 90s, I'm not going to say that there's any films there that are of particular note or merit. Now, I haven't watched all of those films, so maybe I'm wrong. But the only film that I will perhaps just pick out is this one from 1987, which is Tough Guys Don't Dance, and this is written and directed by Norman Mailer. So Norman Mailer definitely has strengths as a writer and a novelist. I would not say he has strengths as a director. So personally, I don't think too much of this film, but nonetheless, you can certainly watch it and find it interesting to watch, whatever happens in it, even if you don't particularly like it. However, that's my opinion. There are certainly a lot of people nowadays, it seems, who are looking to reappraise this film as something of a masterpiece. Now, I'm definitely not in that group, but see it for yourself. See what you think. See if you really rate this movie. So yeah, Tough Guys Don't Dance. It co-stars Isabella Rossellini and Wings Hauser. Something of a film noir, or a pastiche of a film noir, a black comedy perhaps, or is it just badly directed? I don't know. Anyway, this really, like I say, is probably what I would say is the final film of any particular note from Ryan O'Neal. But like I say, his career certainly did continue up until near his death, and he was starring in a TV series again in the latter part of his years, the series Bones. I haven't watched that at all, but yeah, ultimately Ryan O'Neal has now passed away, aged 82. Okay, so that's just a roundup really of the significant films, I think, of Ryan O'Neal, which really do come from that 1970s period. But yeah, please do let me know in the comments if you think that there are other films of Ryan O'Neal that should be remembered, or let me know if you have any particular favourites from those ones from the 70s. Yeah, please do join me again for some more videos. Thanks for joining me on this one. All the best to you. Bye-bye.